Hey there, I'm Glenn Weldon. This is NPR's Book of the Day. Decades ago now, I bought for myself a cheap paperback copy of Madhur Jaffrey's very first cookbook, An Invitation to Indian Cooking, and it's been with me ever since, through 5 states, 4 relationships, 3 apartments, and 2 houses. You can tell my go-to recipes have been torn out and taped back in. The pages are stained with turmeric and saffron and ghee, and there's a dried smear of what I think is red dal across the back cover. The spine split in 2 long ago, somewhere on the drive between Iowa City and Washington, D.C. Jaffrey is 89 now, and she's out with an updated edition of that first cookbook, which means I can finally retire the sad beat-up copy on my kitchen shelf that's bound together by nothing but a couple rubber bands and memory. NPR's Michel Martin got to visit Jaffrey in her home and talk about her extraordinary life and poke around her kitchen. I am seethingly jealous. This conversation aired on Morning Edition.
This episode is brought to you by Staples. Today is Recycling Day. Actually, every day is Recycling Day at Staples. And if you join the free tech take-back, you'll earn $5 back in rewards when you recycle tech in-store. So plan your next trip in soon and bring your old tech, big and small. They'll recycle it, you'll feel rewarded, and get rewarded. $5 back in rewards offer limited to once per customer per calendar month. Exclusions apply. Redeemable in-store only. Ends June 17, 2023. Visit staples.com/recycling for details.
When we arrive at Madhur Jaffrey's home in upstate New York, it might have been a little rude, but of course we asked to see the kitchen first.
I have everything.
You still grind your own spices?
Yes.
You did?
I have a coffee grinder.
Oh, okay.
And look here.
Yeah.
I'll show you where.
Yeah. Madhur Jaffrey is probably best known for introducing Americans and others to authentic Indian food. She's written dozens of cookbooks, but that's not all. In her 89 years, she's starred in movies and plays and done lots of other things. Here she is playing a grandmother in a music video by the rapper Mr. Cardamom. He calls her Nani, which is the Hindi way of referring to a maternal grandma.
I'm going to make you a countryside chicken curry.
Go ahead, make a rap for your nanny. It's a rap. Get the guap, spin the rack on your nanny. Spin the rack. Come through, give a dab to your nanny. If you really feeling good, spin a track for your nanny.
As you might imagine, for a multi-hyphenate like her, she still has lots of interests. Drawing and gardening. She grows fruits and vegetables in her backyard. And of course, she also tends to an abundant supply of homegrown herbs. And this year, she is out with an updated version of her very first cookbook, An Invitation to Indian Cooking. It was first published in 1973. What's your go-to food if you're not feeling well?
Some soup. Mm-hmm. Some kind of wonderful soup. My mother had this thing, we called it soup toast. Soup toast. And it was kind of like a meat soup with vegetables in it and toast which you broke into it and ate it. And that's my real comfort food.
And what would you prepare if you were trying to impress?
I'd make a biryani. A grand biryani. We know how much work goes into it, and we know the saffron that goes into it, the nuts that go into it, the combination of meat and rice and how to put it together so they both come out cooked at the right time. There's a lot of timing involved and a lot of what we call the dum technique, where you close the lid completely and it steams in its own juices.
Well, take us back to the story of how you came up with this book, why you decided to write a cookbook from the beginning, because people may forget you are an actor. An actress. Right?
So
a trained actress. You trained at the Royal Academy.
Right. I trained to do one thing. I did not train to cook. I have never trained. And when I left home in India, I couldn't cook. And my mother didn't cook either. She didn't need to, but she came from a sort of humbler family. And so she cooked with all the women of the house.
And you don't know how to cook because
I don't know how to cook because we had cooks. And I remember going up the 5 flights of stairs at the Royal Academy and going up to the canteen and eating this kind of see-through slice of roast beef that was grey, cabbage that was watery and grey, potatoes that were watery and grey. I thought, oh my God, think of those potatoes with cumin and asafoetida. How wonderful that would be. I didn't know how to cook it. So that's when I started writing to my mother. And she wrote these 3-line letters back. Take this, take that, stir that around, buno it or roast it a little bit, and then cook it till it's done. But here's the irony of it all, that even then, I remember the taste of it. And that's what I keep telling people, that if you have a good palate, it's like having a good ear. So it's a kind of memory you get when your sense is acute. And I have it for the palate.
Jaffrey became a household name in the UK in the 1980s, hosting a cooking show that would spur a run on cilantro. And I just had to ask her how she managed such a prodigious output of cookbooks.
Because I love to eat. When you love to eat, you say, oh, this is possible, this is possible. You keep thinking of the possibilities. And I never took it seriously. That's the other thing. I took acting seriously and never got the acting jobs I wanted. I didn't take this seriously, and I kept getting more and more offers to do this and that and the other. So it's been an odd kind of life that way.
That's interesting. One of the things about your books, the tone of it is so inviting in the sense that you say, look, I'm going to start out with the easy recipes, and then we're going to kind of work our way up. And you're also not shy about substitutions that may make it easier to achieve the result.
Cook this food. If they don't come 100% there, they come 99% there. And I want them to learn about it, then they'll want to go 100%.
In the 50 years since your first book, you said, look, you know what? If you really want to eat good Indian food, you have to go to somebody's house. Is it different now? I mean, could we go out and find some really excellent Indian food in a restaurant? Yeah.
Yes, because they're these young guys that have taken over, all these young chefs. They're trying to do it the way they want to do it. And that is a big difference. And they are new and expensive and saying, look at me, we can do this. We can make you pay $150 for a meal and we'll give you something real, something that tastes like we want to taste.
We are in a moment, as we are speaking, when people of Indian descent are very much on the rise in leadership in all spheres. And on the other hand, there are anti-democratic trends in India that are also very worrisome to people. I'm just wondering how you feel about that.
Tricky subject because of the politics that comes into it. I feel very strongly that we should be a democracy where Hindus and Muslims have equality. All religions. We've had it. When Nehru was there as our first prime minister, we had total equality for Hindus and Muslims.
But what about here as an Indian American? I mean,
it's the same here. All the Indians here
really
are equally divided.
Really?
Yeah. There's a strong element that is the anti-Muslim element that is very powerful amongst the Indians in America. But there's also the other element. People like me who always said, can't we get along? Can't we live together? So there are these two sides and they coexist.
Before we let you go, do you have any advice for someone who's making their way as you once did as a young woman in the world?
Know what you want and keep going the way you want to go and let all the chips fall where they may, but do what you want without hurting anyone. That's my way of doing things.
Madhur Jaffrey, thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
The 50th anniversary edition of An Invitation to Indian Cooking comes out later this year.
From the Rough Translation podcast, when falling in love means risking your life, this group in India promises to protect lovers.
The Love Commandos.
The Love Commandos.
I was like, wow, this is so cool.
But are they heroes or villains? Listen to Love Commandos on NPR's Embedded, wherever you get your podcasts.